Hi, I got a quick one for you today because I just want to let you know some information I was given. So a dark empath, it is a person, who understands another person's emotions, but doesn't experience actually those feelings. They may pretend like they care, about even what you're going through. They would rather use your emotions to manipulate you, though. They have highly sensitive nervous systems, and so our sudden, rush of anger or something, would feel overwhelming to them. Even, I'd say, disorienting, and make them sometimes even physically ill. So they may experience dizziness or shortness of breath. I'd say vision problems, such as the seeing spots, experience blurred vision, thoughts. They are very private about their thoughts, though. You may see the rage, but privately, they may be crying out or at least feeling like an eternal heaviness. Dark empaths can be loving and give us even the relationship goals, we have always wanted under the surface. Their actions are designed, actually, to manipulate us, not so that we can have what we want, but so that they can achieve their own ends. Unfortunately, if you have ever never heard of actually a dark empath, it's more common than you may think. I think a study was like 1,000 participants, and they revealed that there was like 20% or a little bit more of that were ranked as dark empaths. So while there is no clinical diagnosis for the dark empath personality, there are assessments that can measure the 4 traits. It's a combination of, I'd say, narcissism, Machiavellianism, I haven't talked about yet, psychopathy, and empathy. So while it may seem that the dark empath, is basically an energy vampire, there is an important difference between those two types anyway. A broken empath is a term many use as possibly, energy vampire. But it's describing an empath who's basically is struggling, the emotional, overwhelming exhaustion, even trauma internally. They are burdened with, this overwhelming, feeling, and they seek others to lift the burden off themselves because they possess traits of the 3 personality disorders that make up, it's called the dark triad. The way I remembered in school was, think triangle, the narcissism, the psychopathy, and the Machiavellianism. Deal with a dark empath by setting strong boundaries and encouraging them to get professional help, but be prepared to cut them off if you need to. Moreover, dark empaths were a little higher in the neuroticism, another one I haven't talked about yet, but it's a type of negative thinking. But do not score higher, though they don't, in depression, anxiety, or even stress. Instead, their neuroticism may reflect subtraits, such as anger, hostility, even self-doubt. So it can potentially be a harmful markup of personality traits. The dark triad is the grouping of the 3 most common components that you often see. The psychopathy, which is the lack of remorse, the impulsivity, I'd add emotional, the coldness, the surface level charm, and antisocial behaviors like we have talked about. Then you got the narcissism, which involves the feeling of superiority. It's a sense of entitlement, a need for admiration. So a lack of empathy at some point, and hypersensitivity or even criticism, depending on the situation or the relationship. Then the third is that it adds in the manipulative and deceptive behaviors, immorality, I'd say self-interest, and callousism. So dark empaths are often individuals, though, these are the ones that guilt trip, they gaslight, leads a person to question their own sanity sometimes and their feelings or even their decisions. Charm to get their way, using sarcastic, even sometimes they're hurtful humor, are emotionally intelligent, though they are, and they can tell what others are even feeling. And they use, manipulative tactics to gain and maintain control in relationships. They do, though, have all self-worth their self-worth is low and they seek validation. They struggle with anxiety or depression, behave vindictively at times, and talk about others behind their back. People often let their guard down around dark empaths to use to connect to others, but normally end up exploiting them. The big five, though, and power, I'm losing my hat, it's running away, of the dark empath, I wanted to share with you really quick, though. It's extroverted, they're agreeable, neurotic, having a greater ability to engage, adaptive psychopathy when necessary. Paralleling the relationships is the fifth one, though, between empaths and atypicals. So in reality, this means that they tend to be highly intelligent, very observant, and exceptional communicators. They can make you feel more understood than you ever have before in your life. While they don't tend to, I got a hair that won't leave me alone, able to cognitively understand, your life or what you've been through. They just appear to understand. While they don't tend to experience a wide range of emotions, they're able to cognitively understand just what others are feeling. And this, skill can be a threat to your well-being if you're in their crosshairs, as like a mark. All of us know someone who uses, flattery to get what they want, or perhaps an ego they can't, keep in check, or loves themselves a little too much. Ideally, we want all of our friends, good friends, to show us some empathy, right, when we need it. But the traits, though, of I'd say psychopath almost, are the deal breakers, that overshadow these other, tolerable, even attractive traits. If a person who seems to know you so well and really, gets you, but seems to be increasingly reckless, callous, or I'd say devious even sometimes in their actions, you may need to step back and take a more objective view of the relationship. Don't allow yourself to be pulled in by flattery and held in through manipulation. Exiting a relationship with a dark empath is always best accomplished as early in the relationship as it can be done, to avoid much damage or heartache as possible. With that being said, though, what's important is if I want you to know, you're in a relationship that you can't exit like some of your children, one or more, versus a friend. I strongly encourage therapy between individual and family for both of you, all of you even. The dark tirade, the traits have long been thought to be extremely difficult to treat, only because the individuals with dark traits are not likely to seek therapy to reduce, their dark traits on their own. However, they may be more open to seek treatment for other related concerns, if you're labeling anxiety or the depression part, or and especially supported and encouraged, by a parent or a spouse. The good news is the most recent studies continue to find that therapeutic interventions focusing on agreeableness showing some reduction in all three dark traits. The thing that turns a good empath bad is lies, deception, and having their good intentions basically, turned around and made to look like they had an evil agenda. You see this most often in like a nasty divorce, with children especially. You got the good parent, and the bad parent, and the kids stuck in the middle of the battle, some likely to pick up one or more of the traits of either parent, plus what they witness and experience with, the divorce and negativity. It's a common way a good empath turns dark, actually, the kids. An empath that turns dark still has integrity, though. They have feelings and don't like hurting people at the end of the day. The narcs, or the bad parent, just bring out the worst in people, including children, who they would, especially when they become teens, or adults, young adults, and even the good parent. It is so wrong. A true empath, though, can't stay dark for long, especially after support and treatment, even boundaries, and, a sense of security when it's added or implemented, True empaths care too much. They feel pain, and even the infliction. You know, that's the true meaning of empathy for others, right? Knowing when they have done wrong and feeling bad for it, putting their, you know, hot hand up, saying sorry and meaning it. You see them begin to try and make up for their mistakes or wrongdoings. No one is perfect, but the difference here is an empath will do the time for their crime and actually, you know, care. You know, they cease even the complaining or the blaming others for their actions once the treatment begins and the situation improves. It is just a pity, you know, a narcissist just pretends it didn't happen and carries on like butter doesn't melt in their mouth. I feel a real dark empath is just another name, though, you know, for a narc who can't figure out their emotions or simply doesn't care and won't get treatment, even thinking they don't need it. You know, these have those no right to call themselves an empath, especially if they're still inflicting harm, you know. So to add dark to empath is a typo error sometimes. In short, you know, an empath who has turned dark is an empath that's had enough of being kicked in the guts. In spiritual terms, the run-of-the-mill dark empath is an average narc. The run-of-the-mill light empath is your average borderline. The demonic energy is your narcissist, you know, with the antisocial behavior. The dark empath is your borderline antisocial untreated. Contrary to popular belief, though, there are just a couple of cognitive empaths. You know, some are very high in effective empathy, too. We want to think of callous people, you know, as unfeeling, because the concept of someone who can feel your pain and still do horrible things is so terrifying. But dark empaths are good at compartmentalizing their emotions when hurting people, or using like rationalization to justify their actions even. In other words, they can still feel your pain deeply but choose to disassociate. Personality traits involving lower agreeableness and higher narcissistic traits. They care about you but care about themselves more, and usually always traumatized in some way. You know, for an empath to turn dark, they may have experienced something that caused them to stop believing in people, really. But I hope that answers your questions, okay? You guys have a great day. I'm going to get going because it's getting windy out here, okay? Bye.